Deputy Chief Minister, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'll start by saying that I've spent 48 years dealing with aviation, from 43 to 91. Now, the local shipping firm M.H. Bland had been established in Gibraltar by a Liverpool merchant, Marcus Henry Bland, to start sea services between Gibraltar and Tangier. The brothers Galleros joined the company, and during the company, the company was going to be sold, and the Galleros were very keen to buy it, but they didn't have the necessary funds. So the ex-members of the junta were a committee from the Catholic cathedral who were responsible for the finances of the church. And the junta, not the junta, but when they left the church, the junta lent them the money, the necessary funds. I'll tell you something about the junta because it's very interesting. The junta was a committee from the Catholic Church. In 1881, Monsignor Gonzalo Canilla was appointed Bishop of Gibraltar. The junta were completely against this appointment. Canilla was a very humble person. He was very, very helpful to the poor. He was very helpful in settling down the Maltese people who came to work to Gibraltar. On the day he was to carry out his ceremonial entry into the cathedral, the junta people were business people from Gibraltar, together with their friends, stood at the entrance of the cathedral, and they did not allow him to go. So he had no option but to go home to his family in Governor Street. A week later, when it was announced that he was going to make the entry again, the governor and the police arranged to have people there to avoid any nonsense. But nonetheless, the junta people were present together with their friends, and a total of 43 people were detained. The Galleros then joined the Galleros with the company where in 1980 was a very eventful year. The Gibraltar Airways was formed in 1931. It was the first company to be registered in Gibraltar. Prior to that, all the companies were registered in England. Apart from Gibraltar Airways being appointed, the German Graf Zeppelin flew over the Bay of Gibraltar. As a 5-year-old boy, I remember the Zeppelin going over, and the North Atlantic crossing was done. And later in 1928, if you'll excuse me a moment. In 1928, recognizing that the potential for motoring between France, Spain, and Morocco, Bland Line pioneered the first car ferry service across the strait. Now, with the arrival of the airplane, it seemed obvious to explore the feasibility of an air service. But the only possible flat piece of land being occupied by the racecourse and sport fields, the kennels, the Royal Calpe Hunt, and the public gardens, all of which were considered essential to Gibraltar. Tangier was a rather exposed harbour By the services airfield, it seemed that the flight the choice was an amphibian. By coincidence, an amphibian aircraft flew from London to Gibraltar on its way to Nigeria. And the amphibian aircraft stayed in Gibraltar for 2 days, offering joyrides and a crossing over to Tangier. The galleros, knowing this, contacted their respective company in England, and they acquired an amphibian aircraft at the cost of £300, as you can see on the screen. The service was inaugurated in August that year in 1931, and it lasted for 6 months. But unfortunately, notwithstanding the efforts made to promote the service, only one passenger traveled in every flight. So the thing was not viable. And apart from that, the aircraft had an accident and it was damaged. So they suspended all the services. And the company stayed dormant. Now, at the January board meeting of the plant, a decision was taken to suspend the amphibian operation, and the following minutes were recorded: that the local government should do their best endeavors with the Spanish government through the Foreign Office, with the object of arranging for a neutral ground to be turned into an aerodrome for our use. Some of you will remember the neutral grounds, which extended from the Four Corners to the Spanish frontier, about 600 meters. From the minutes of the clear that the directors were confident that local government would also provide financial aid of the operation. Unknown at the time to the airline was the fact that His Majesty's government in London had already decided to build an airfield. In February 1932, a secret memorandum passed from the War Office to the governor, advising him that work should begin on preparing an emergency airstrip across the racecourse. In the event the process of the building airstrip took much longer than either the British government or Gibraltar Airways had expected. So then it was decided then in 1943, BOAC, British Overseas Airways Corporation, which was the national airline of England, had a base in Gibraltar. There was about 40 of the staff from England in Gibraltar based, and they consisted of the manager, traffic handling the passengers and the aircraft, operations, engineers, and accountants. When I was 17, on the 21st of August, in Madeira, I signed in the British Consul to join the army, and I came over to Gibraltar in '43 with another 3 colleagues. And here, when I came to Gibraltar, the GDF, I had to join the AFS, the Auxiliary Fire Services, and I had to go twice a week for drills. So I joined BOAC as a traffic clerk handling with the ship's documents and passengers. And 1945, the war ended, and I was in the GDF. When I left the GDF, then having been working with BOAC, in '47, Blands called me if I would join the airline, and we started operating. British Airways leased two aircraft, or Blands leased 2 aircraft from BAA, and they were the Rapid. The Rapid, you'll have to wait. The Rapid were 8-seater aircraft, and they flew between Gibraltar and Tangier, twice in the morning and twice in the afternoon. Now the Rapids were replaced by the DC-3, the Dakota. The Dakota used to do the service to 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening to Tangier, and also Gibraltar, Madrid. Gibraltar, Madrid. And then this aircraft was replaced by the Viscount. The Viscount was a 47-seater aircraft, 47-seater aircraft, and he did the service to 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening to Tangier. They also did the Madrid flight, and they did a number of charters. I've got a long way to go yet. The BOEC operated a flight from London, Lisbon, Gibraltar in 46. Then it was taken over by BEA. And BEA then started flying London, Gibraltar with Vikings. Vikings were 37-seaters. Now, there was no air terminal in Gibraltar. It was a blister hangar where the MOD buildings are at the moment, next to Eroski. And the aircraft used to park where the old air terminal was. So it meant that the passengers had to disembark, cross the road, and into the terminal. And so as not to the passengers going straight to Spain or straight to Gibraltar without going to the immigration, we had to collect the passports there. In 1950s and 1960s, there was no airport in Malaga, and in Gibraltar we had a lot of air traffic from England and charters from Germany, from Switzerland, from Finland and from Ireland, with groups going to Spain. They used to come to Gibraltar and then coast to Spain. And BEA, passengers holding tickets from London, Gibraltar, had different coupons. London, Gibraltar, one sector, Gibraltar, Torremolinos, another sector, Torremolinos, Gibraltar, another sector, and Gibraltar, London, the last one. So we used to exchange the coach ticket for a real coach ticket. And we used to send them with our own bus to Spain and then bring them back to the other. I have very little time now, so at my advanced age, I'm still not retired, like Sir Joe Bossano. But I am still active, very active. I'm a travel consultant, and I specialize on group travels, and you know where to. Madeira and Malta. And also I do genealogy, the genealogy which I've done for many, many years. And I want something else now. And you stay here. You stay here. I'm going to present Julian, who really deserves this, the family tree of his mother's family.
Thank you very much.
But I have to join you as a wife and children.
Yes. Oh, wow.
And I wish Julian all the very best in his future career as a playwright.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, wow, what a surprise. What a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, Luis Perera.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I even start, I think I'm going to break the protocol by saying and congratulating Damon, because I think his talk made me cry. So, well done, Damon. My talk today is simply about my working life. I started my working life at the age of 17, and I'm still going strong at the age of 59 as a minister. During my life, circumstances has made me change my career. At the age of 17, while still in school, I did my bronze medallion, and I thought I'd be a lifeguard. And that's what I did during the summer months. But at that early age, at 17, I realized how important it was that people's lives were in my hand. And I'd had to be pretty responsible at being a lifeguard. But yes, at the down times, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with my friends as a lifeguard. And I do not have any photographs because I don't think I should be even showing them. Be that as it may, I enjoyed the work as a lifeguard, but during that time as well, I was offered jobs like sweeping up the rock and cleaning the beaches very early in the morning. And that gave me even more money because I was paid overtime during that time. And at a very early age, I knew how important it was to make the best of your job and try and earn as much money as you could. At the age of 19, and the teachers used to tell me that I was going to get my pension in school because I was already 19 going on 20 and still in school. And it was because I was not a student, like a normal student. I didn't study. I did very badly in my O-levels and my A-levels. And I was repeating them and wanted to stay. I'm a product of the guinea pig year of the comprehensive system. And therefore, all those changes during those years affected us. But, we were given chances. And I was repeating and repeating every time until the age of 19, nearly 20, when I left school. When I left school, I was unemployed. I didn't know what to do. And my friend Freddie Ballester, because I used to play pool, Freddie the plumber, says to me, "Do you want to be my mate? I've got a big job to do." I said, "Yeah, come on then." So I embarked on learning how to be a plumber with Freddie. And we had to do the old Mediterranean hotel, all the piping system. What did I learn from there? That planning in a systematic way was very, very important. Because if you didn't stick the pipes properly and you put the water on, you're definitely going to flood the whole place. And Freddie was perfect. He knew everywhere. He'd tell me to sandpaper every little corner pipe, because he knew that when you put the water on and you hadn't stuck a pipe, the whole thing will go. So it just taught me another lesson, how to plan things and be systematic. Once I did that job, I said, right, okay, what am I going to do with myself? So I embarked on going onto the outer world. So I went off to London. I wanted to make it in London. I was only young and I didn't know what to do, but I had my aunt who lived there, and she said to me, "Well, you can stay a couple of weeks with us," which I did. My uncle offered me a house to live and rent, and he said to me, "If you want, fill it up with your friends. Get the money from the rent, and there is your house." The problem is that the house was in north of London, in Archway. Out of this world. It was impossible, a dark, horrible place. But I used to go and meet my Gibraltarian Janito friends who were studying or working in London. And there I used to have a lot of good, fun time. I was looking for a job. And one of my friends says to me, "Why don't you come with me?" Because he was actually in a market stall selling leather jackets. I said, okay. He says, because the stall opposite needs someone to sell. And I said, but what do they sell? Ladies' pleated dresses. I thought, but how are we going to do this? Well, anyway, I went there, spoke to the owner of the stall, and the guy says to me, yeah, okay, look, this is the price, these are the sizes. The fun we had was just incredible. I tell you, I think I sold 3 dresses in about a month. But it was fun because the friend I had, who's practical joker, used to see people going around and say, Ma'am, this leather jacket really suits you. And there come me with a pleated dress and saying, yet this fashion, leather jacket with pleated dress, oh, wouldn't you look lovely? You know what? Didn't sell any. So, during that time, as a joke as well, with my friends, I said, I'm going to apply to Harrods to get a job. Harrods? Look. I applied to Harrods. Lo and behold, they asked me for an interview. I get employed in Harrods. The HR manager says to me, Mr. Linares. I said, excuse me, is that me? My name is Linares. Oh, I didn't know that. You are now going to go to the bakery department. Thank you. So there I spent in the bakery department about 2 months packing Christmas cakes, taking them from the store to the shop in decorated tables. The downside of that is that because I lived in Archway, I used to have to get up at 5:30 in the morning, get my breakfast, walk 20 minutes to the tube station, 1.5 hours to get to Knightsbridge, to start work at 8:30. Be in the warehouse from 8:30 to 5:30, all dark, during the time I was working with all artificial lights, 1 hour lunch break in which we weren't allowed to leave the premises, and then at 5:30, finish work and take 2.5 hours to get back to Archway, where I got there about 8 o'clock in the evening, make myself supper, to go to bed again, to get up again at 5:30 in the morning. Well, for me, that's not life. So, what did I do? I just decided that I'm coming back to sunny Gibraltar. That's my experience in London. I didn't want to go to London anymore. So, after coming back, my late father was insistent that I should be going to Barclays Bank as a bank clerk. He spoke to a friend, Menshufaro. I was there working as a bank clerk. 3 months I lasted. The fact that I had to wear suit and tie, that I had to be in the counter, taking the flack of customers coming and complaining about their ledger and their statements that weren't correct and all that. I didn't even know how the ledgers worked and the statements worked. And I got all the stick. People, doesn't know what he's talking about. And me, suit and tie, young guy, I thought, this is not for me. So at that time, I went to the manager. I did not tell him a few nice things. I resigned, but at the same time, I'd already got another job prepared, which was as a delivery driver. Enjoyed it no end. Dressed with my jeans, every day out in the streets, driving, meeting people, people, sensible people, not the people who used to come to the bank. So what I did was, sometimes it was a bit stressful. Why? Because you had to go, for example, all the way up the hill to the Myers ramp and up the road to the lines with all the boxes. You knew the car was obstructing down there. You didn't know whether the shop was going to be open. You're carrying all the boxes up there, and then the shop is closed. So you had to walk down. Anyway, that was a bit stressful, but at the same time, I really, really enjoyed that. I did that for 4 years, actually. But obviously, that was not going to, I'm not going to continue as a delivery driver all my life. I had ambitions, and one of my ambitions was to become a school teacher, because having been educated in the old Linewall school, the Christian Brothers Preparatory School, I was adamant to prove that you don't have to be a sadist teacher. You can be a normal person. Strapping children and hitting them and smacking them every day is not the right way of teaching. And that really got into my head. How do I went through that. I mean, I was not a very good student, I can tell you. I used to get smacked every single day. Hated it. So my mind was, I'm going to become a teacher and prove that you don't have to be that sadist. Anyway, I'm conscious about the time, and I'm moving on, because how did I get to become a teacher? I applied for the grant. And in the interview, one of the questions was, have you got any experience of teaching? And I looked at the guy and said, how am I going to have experience of teaching? I've just come out of school, I'm young, and I want to be a teacher. And don't you think that question is... I think the questioner was a bit offended at my audacity to question his question. So, wasn't very successful, didn't get it, obviously. But it stayed in my mind that he was asking me to have some experience of teaching. I was still a driver, so I thought, well, I'm going to go to the Loreto convent and ask them whether I can teach with them. And they allowed me to do basketball there, because at the time, I used to play basketball, a lot of basketball. So I offered, look, can I teach basketball? Yeah, of course you can. In the afternoon, so I taught basketball. Well, all right, now I've got the experience. Go back to the next year, to see if I can get the grant. And lo and behold, they asked me, have you got a place in college? Another question. How can I have a place in college if I have to do teaching practice here in Gibraltar for 1 year before I go to the college? Again, afuera, you're no good. So, all right, let's apply to a college. And I was so adamant, by hook or by crook, I was going to be a teacher. And I had been earning money, and my dad was willing to support me. So what did I do? I applied to a college, I got a place. And off I went with my money, no grant, my money and the help that my dad could give me. Ilkley College, in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales. And I went, oh my God, where have I applied? Within a week, I was out of there. So, I had money in my pocket. I thought, off I go. I'm going to go and visit my friends who are studying in different places. So the nearest place was Trinity and All Saints College, where there were 8 Janitos there. So I spent a little bit of time, and one of them says to me, why don't you go to the recruitment officer? Went to the recruitment officer. You're a Gibraltarian. You're accepted. Thank you. Right. So he said, now what you've got to do is next year, the next academic year, you can come back. So I applied again for the grant. 3rd time lucky. No question about experience. I've got a college. Now, what the hell are you going to ask me now? I thought to myself, I actually got the grant. Wow, brilliant. So what I did was, I had to stay. I wrote to the college. They held the place for me for 1 year. I did my teaching practice, and I spent 4 years in Leeds. I've got to rush on now, because the next thing, after I was a teacher for 12 years, and during that time I became the president of the GTA and the president of the Gibraltar Trades Council. During that time, it was the fast launches. I was instrumental in trying to get rid of the fast launches. I think I did a good job, and we all in Gibraltar should be, saying, because it was to do with children. It was nothing to do with politics. As a teacher, I saw children painting Winston boxes and fast launches. That's not on. And I thought, if I'm politically, I hope I have about a minute to finish, if I am going to politically fight for people's self-determination to my people, who am I going to give it to? I cannot give it to people. I've got to give it to people who are educated, who do the right thing. So that's my journey as in a school teacher. After that, I became, in 2000, I presented myself for the second time, because in 1996, I presented myself for election after I did demonstration. I had my 15 Andy Warhol fame in the demonstration, but I think I was like Churchill. I won the war, but then I lost the election because I went to the election and I lost my deposit. In 2000, I'll go quickly. In 2000, there was the first time that I presented myself with the GSLP Liberals. I got into Parliament, worst thing that could have happened, because I got a slash in wages from 30,000 to 14,000. People were saying that I was going to resign, and I said, I'm going to stick to it. 11 years I stuck to it, and at the same time I became a lawyer. I've got now 3 children, earning that amount of money. The strength has been my wife, who was earning much more than I have, and together we've made it. Then I became in 2011 a minister, and as a minister I've done 14 different portfolios, and I think it's to do with all the trajectory that I've had. The Chief Minister Picardo says, este puede ser lo que sea, de todo lo que sea. And so basically, I'm just going to, in conclusion, I have enjoyed all the jobs that I have done. And when I haven't, the first thing I've said, I'm out of here. So my lesson for anybody is that if you wake up in the morning and you really don't want to go to work, don't do it. Leave the job. I know it's easier said than done, but I am mad enough, or at least I've done it, when I didn't like my job. Get your bags and go somewhere else. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone. Today I'm just going to be sharing some of my personal story, which began 5 years ago, and the message that I'd like to leave with everyone in the audience today is to look at my story as something that's ended up as a positive story to tell. If not, I wouldn't really be here today. So I think this quote is quite fitting. For all that is uncertain, I will still choose joy. So throughout my life, in the past 5 years especially, there have been loads of moments of uncertainty. However, throughout all those difficult times, I have always chosen to be happy and to choose joy, okay? So my story began 5 years ago when I was just 17. I was diagnosed with womb cancer. More specifically, it's adenosarcoma of the uterus. It's a really rare form of cancer. Sarcoma itself is very rare, and the fact that they found it in my uterus is even more so really rare. Not only that, but also being so young. This all came after a few biopsies. It was, in fact, 3 biopsies. Some MRI scans, and just loads of different consultations with different doctors. No one really knew what was causing all of the pain that I was experiencing. Later on, we figured out that it was, in fact, cancer. It was a tumor about the size of a tennis ball, taking up the whole of my uterus. And as you can imagine, this was quite shocking for me at the time, being so young. No? Doctors all over UK didn't really know the cause of this, why this was happening to someone so young. As you can see here, highlighted in bold, it's most common in postmenopausal women. So there are loads of women around the world who have womb cancer, or have had womb cancer, but they're usually older women in their 40s, 50s, later on in life. So it was something quite weird happening to me so young. I like to think that I'm unique in that way. So as you can see on this slide, womb cancer is one of the 5 gynecological cancers, and they affect loads and loads of women around the world, okay? I didn't know this at the time, so being just 17, I had heard of breast cancer, brain cancer, but I'd never really heard of womb cancer. I didn't know that womb cancer even existed. I didn't really know what that was. And at the time, I wasn't really ready to kind of face the implications that came with this diagnosis. So moving on, everything happened quite fast. I was diagnosed in February, and by the beginning of March, I had to travel to the UK to undergo a hysterectomy at the Royal Marsden. So again, I didn't really know what was going to be what was going to happen in the procedure. Thankfully, I had a really, really good doctor who I'm still in contact with today, and he kind of kept myself and my parents in the loop with everything, and he was really, really adamant, which I'm really thankful for today, to keep my ovaries. So although I had a hysterectomy and they removed my uterus, I still have my ovaries today, which has made a big difference to the way that my story has played out and will play out in the future. So as you can see from the second picture, that was my tummy on the day of my surgery. It was done robotically, which I think, again, is quite cool. I don't have a big scar on my tummy, which was something that I was quite nervous about. I didn't really want to have any scarring, so instead I just have 4 small incisions, which are still there today, but I've learned to kind of accept it. At first I wasn't so happy about them, but I'm learning to love them now, I guess. So my family has been really, really good with my whole diagnosis and aftercare. It's crazy to think that there are actually 4 generations of cancer patients in my family. If you look over there, that's my great-grandmother in front of the steps of the Royal Marsden. She was treated for cancer there, and then so was I, like so many years later, which is quite, I think that's quite nice, now that we have gone through similar things. And then my granny, who also was diagnosed with leukemia, and who thankfully is still here today. So, like with any other illness, not just specifically cancer, there's been loads of ups and downs. I've slept in countless hospital beds, I've had loads of blood taken out of me, seen loads of different doctors, had to explain my story to loads of different doctors, had loads of scans, you name it, like everything has happened, no? But one of the things that I've kind of hung on to is my support system and my support network. Throughout my diagnosis, as you can see here, the good and the bad, I've had loads of people surrounding me, which it might sound a little bit cheesy, but I don't think that I would be the person that I am today without all of their support, no? And I think that that's a real big game changer when you're going through something, not just cancer, but perhaps any other illness. You do feel very isolated, very lonely, like you cannot share some of the things that maybe your friends are going through. You cannot really relate to them as much, no? Perhaps they cannot really relate to you as much. You try and put on a brave face, not just for your family, for your friends, and having a support network is really, really important. And I think that that is what has helped me like be here speaking about this for one, and also being so kind of positive with the way that things have turned out. So yeah, these are just some pictures of some of the really, really important people in my life who have kind of helped me throughout different stages. If I had a picture for every single person that has come into my life throughout the past 5 years, we would be here till tomorrow, because so many people, even strangers that I didn't know before, have kind of taken their time to speak to me, to get to know my story, try and give me some advice. And it's crazy to think that through this like negative thing, not my cancer, I've managed to build relationships and form friendships with so many people. So that's something that I'm really grateful for. Moving on, I think that's something that really helped me whilst I was going through what I was going through at the time, was just keeping myself busy and focusing on many different things. No? So at the time I was 17, I was doing my AS levels in school, and I didn't really want to kind of give up and let this define me. I didn't really want people firstly to feel sorry for me, or to kind of use this as an excuse to perhaps get out of some things. No? So I decided to put all my energy into studying. I went off to university, and now I've got a job that I love as a teacher in Westside School. Another thing that has really helped me over the past few years is kind of spreading awareness and helping other people see some of the things that I didn't know before. So like I mentioned, I didn't really know what womb cancer was before. I didn't know that gynecological cancers affect so many women around the world. And through my diagnosis, I've been able to become more aware of some of the issues. No? And as you can see here, loads of people from around the community, we've got MPs, some of my friends, have all taken to social media throughout these few years, no, and have all helped me spread this message of awareness. I've spoken to ministers, the governor about these issues. I've held tea parties. Anyone that knows me knows that I love a good tea party. Tea parties to raise awareness, raise funds. Businesses around Gibraltar have been able to kind of take part. So it's been something that I think that has made me really proud. No, I've taken this kind of negative moment in my life and flipped it and spread the word around Gibraltar. Not only just Gibraltar, but also more worldwide. No, I've written articles for the Eve Appeal, the only UK charity that raises awareness for the 5 gynecological cancers, for the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity, obviously locally for the Gibraltar Chronicle. So I think that that's been something that has kind of empowered me. So I know that this negative thing happened to me 5 years ago, but from that I've learnt and I've grown. No? And I haven't really dwelled in the past and let the past kind of define me. I've been able to use my voice and spread this word of positivity, not in the hope of kind of helping other women. And it has helped. There have been people in the community, also some people from the UK, who have reached out to me and thanked me for doing this. Now we've been able to share our stories and kind of bond through that. Not also raising awareness, but also raising funds for several different charities. I've kind of put all my energy into that, even still. Now I'm still thinking of ways that I can help spread this important message of getting to know your body. The reason why I say getting to know your body is because, like I mentioned, it took 3 biopsies and several MRI scans to finally get to where the tumor was. Not and if it wasn't for like my persistence and me like telling my mom and telling the doctors, Mom, I think something is wrong. Every doctor that would perhaps tell me, oh no, you're just going to suffer from heavy periods. This is really normal. Loads of women go through this. Like, I feel like I knew my body and I knew that something wasn't right, no? And we don't know if I would have left it and I would have just taken medication. I don't know what the situation would be today, no? Something that I want to focus the rest of my talk on is the future. I feel like being diagnosed with womb cancer at age 17, like I said before, I didn't really know any of the massive implications that were going to come with this diagnosis. And I felt like now that I'm 23, it was really important for me to kind of take ownership of some of the decisions that I had to make in the future. And one of those was addressing like the really big elephant in the room that no one ever wanted to talk about, which was my fertility. So this summer, well, the journey began last September, so in 2018, and it took 1 year and 10 months, so about 2 years, just under 2 years. I embarked on this journey to kind of harvest my eggs for the future, and I felt like it was the right time because I really wanted to kind of end this chapter and not have to revisit it again in the future. I felt like it was the right moment for me now, just being in my early 20s, to kind of do this, leave it there, and then come back to it in the future rather than going through this all over again. No, I felt like I was in a really, really good place. So yeah, this summer it was quite a big deal. I went over to the UK with my mom for about 3 weeks, and as you can see here, I had to inject myself twice a day in my stomach. And it was just loads of different hormone treatments to be able to freeze my eggs for the future. Running out of time. As you can see, it wasn't easy. It was quite painful. Again, I felt very isolated. There's loads of different side effects, not just physically, but also mentally, emotionally, you know. Again, I had my support system with me. I had my mom. I had loads of really good friends that I had met along the way who had gone through similar situations, my friends back home and my family, to help me get through it. And I'm really proud to say now that I have 10 eggs in a freezer somewhere in London that are gonna be that will be my future children. So it's really weird to think about, but it's also quite cool, and I feel like it's amazing what these advances in science can do for women like me. I mean, I'm not the only one. 1 in 8 couples go through infertility issues around the world, and I've been through it by myself at this young age, and I really, really do sympathize with those women and those couples who are trying to have kids, and like it doesn't work for them, because I know what it feels like, no? Just very quickly, I just want to leave off saying that I don't know how my future children are going to come to me, no? I've got this really, really good advantage now that if I ever do want to go through the path of surrogacy, perhaps, just because obviously I cannot actually hold my own biological child or conceive it, no? I could go down the path of surrogacy, I can go down the path of adoption, you know, there's loads of different options nowadays, which I'm really, really grateful for. So although I don't really know what the future holds for me, I think that it's quite cool to have all of these options open, and I mean, just wait and see. Like it says here, I'm just going to wait. And I've done this. I know that this is one of my options. I might not even go down that option, but it's really good that I've been able to kind of do this for myself now, and just wait and see what the future holds for me. So, yeah.